I'm excited to chat. I looked through your social media and we definitely have a lot in common.
For sure.
So what's your perspective of the medical system or the healthcare system?
I think my shirt says it all. Food is medicine. And yeah, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Flexner Report in like the early 1900s, I think late 1800s, but that was basically when John D. Rockefeller, who's involved in all the big oil companies, and his family history is basically found out that, yeah, creating medicine from petroleum is a much cheaper way. And so then they essentially deemed like, movement and food and herbs as like, voodoo and not real science. And I think that's probably one of the most underrated pieces of legislation that people don't even know about. I mean, I didn't really know about it until like 6 months ago, honestly. Not surprised, like it makes sense, but yeah, it's kind of wild.
Yeah, I just started looking into that too, just our history. Where did all this come from? And I'm like, oh, this is just about 100 years ago that this started happening.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm a root cause healer. And it's like, it's interesting. I don't really know a lot of people in the wellness space that haven't gone through some sort of portal of like pain and frustration with the Western system. And I applaud you deeply for your courage because, I think it's like it's death by a thousand cuts. And I'm sure there are hundreds and thousands of other nurses like you that feel the exact same way, but they're just, not to be mean. It's just like they're probably scared and they don't know what to do and they want to say something. And I mean, I've even coached clients that have been in the healthcare space and they're like, yeah, it's crazy like going through your program and then like how I see the world so differently and then being like immersed in that environment. It's like, I don't know if I can even do this anymore.
Yeah, and at one point I realized I didn't even know what I was seeing. I knew something was wrong, and I knew everyone was unhappy, everyone around me, every coworker, but I didn't know why. Like you said, root cause here, why is this happening? Oh, everyone's sick and coming back and it's just repetition and then the nurses are getting sick and it's like just a cesspool until you get out of it and you're like,
Mm,
oh my gosh, what was happening? I don't know if every healthcare
yeah.
worker even knows the extent or can even see it because they're so tired. They're so I just want to survive. They're in fight or flight 24/7.
hmm Yeah. And it's like, I'm sure you felt the same way, but it's like a lot of folks that become doctors or want to be nurses have the biggest hearts and they do it because they want to help people. And I believe that 99% of, maybe you think differently, maybe you've seen differently, but I think 99% of like doctors and nurses are really good people and they really do want to help. And even when they're prescribing medications, they actually think that they're helping people when in reality you have like a spiritual awakening and you realize that we're not separate from nature and then we do all these things that are against our body, which is nature, then it makes sense that every single medication has a side effect because duh. But if you get brainwashed by the system and big food and big pharma, and they say like, oh, this is a medical breakthrough and we've never had this much technology before, but then people either straight up do not know the statistics or they choose to ignore them because if you see them and you do a little bit of research, even just a little bit, watch a podcast or two or watch a documentary, you're like, wow, this is insane.
So, how did you get into nutrition coaching?
I think that's why we're so aligned. And, I think as I've gotten into a more spiritual connection with myself and the universe and God, like I try to use less shame and less guilt and like, you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't do that. But obviously, like when you go through such pain and you don't want others to go through that pain, you get fired up about it and you want to help other people. So naturally, your emotions come through. But yeah, it's the same deal. I think that's why we're so aligned is because I suffered from chronic acne and hemorrhoids for like over 10 years. And I was going from dermatologist to dermatologist and then went to this one dermatologist like four separate times. And then all he ever said was like, eat more fiber and drink more water. And I had no idea. I didn't even think that food might have something to do with my skin issues because I was never taught that. And if I had known, obviously I would have changed it, a lot sooner because I went through so much pain. And TMI, but it even came to the point where like I had like a physical operation on one of my hemorrhoids and it was like the most uncomfortable thing ever. And like I couldn't even like drive my car home because there was something messed up with like my blood flow and I was like super dizzy and I was like, what am I doing? This is crazy. And then kind of had the silver lining of a shoulder injury when I was doing calisthenics that led me to like just studying the human body a little bit more Then I started shopping at Whole Foods. I'm from Massachusetts, grew up there, and then started shopping at Whole Foods and like started looking at all the labels, and realized like all the best food was coming from California. I went and visited my buddy like as soon as we graduated college because he moved to Santa Monica, and like I fell in love with Southern California. And then my brother invited me to a golf trip a few months after, and like all it took was one trip to San Diego, and then like in that first like 48 hours I was like, okay, I need to move to San Diego. And then to make a long story short, I joined the Institute for Integrative Nutrition during the pandemic, and within 5 weeks of joining that certification course, I completely eradicated my 10 years of chronic acne. And I was just like, this is insane. How come no one knows this? And then as my awareness changed, I realized that things around me that are normalized as you quote get older are simply not. And it's nothing to do, well, maybe 5 to 10% has to do with genetics, but really to me that's just a limiting belief. And then, you know, I've had family members that have had, one in particular that's had 3 different types of cancer. I've had another family member that has 3 different autoimmune diseases. I had a roommate at the age of 26 years old going through outpatient chemotherapy for non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I witnessed it firsthand. Had another buddy in college that also had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And so you're just like, wow, like this is, and so it just started to feel like a tap on the shoulder from higher power to be like, okay, you actually need to like help people. Because I almost like felt guilty for not sharing the information that I knew.
Yeah, that's how I feel. I think that's why I'm so enraged, because nobody is talking. I'm like,
Yeah.
what on earth is happening? Because people are getting hurt right in front of us. I don't know how I went through that long without being like, what is happening? Because nobody was giving me answers. They were just passing me from doctor to doctor, and they would give me a different diagnosis each time. So I would have to start a new medication, and then that medication would cause other problems. And then I was on like 12 medications, and my brain was like vibrating inside of me. It was
Crazy.
Inhumane.
Yeah.
Literally inhumane.
Well, it's interesting. It's like, I feel like every client I've worked with comes to me because they don't get answers. And there is a different way. And like, that's what I want people to know, is that there is a different way. And I think now that RFK is, you know, elected and he's making all these moves, like I take it for granted, like so much is ingrained into my lifestyle. It's like, oh, RFK is elected. Like I go through my Instagram feed. It's like people like you and just like all these wellness people. I'm like, oh, everyone already knows. Like I don't need to coach people anymore. People know how to do this, but it's just the furthest thing from the truth. And people still aren't getting answers. And that's really one thing I've learned in my life, is that if you're in a certain paradigm, whether it's through your health or with money or with love or anything in your life, like no matter how much you want to do something or no matter how hard you work, you're literally working against this like higher power. There's a book called Change Your Paradigm, Change Your Life by Bob Proctor. Highly recommend it if you haven't read it. And so I think a lot of people are doing that. They're in this paradigm of like, trust the science, trust the doctors. And, you know, I really do believe when I say this, like 99% of healthcare professionals like actually mean well and they want to help. But the reason people don't get answers is because the Western system doesn't have the answers. They think that they do. And they live in this authoritative like power complex of like, I know the answers. I'm not even going to listen to what you're saying. You're just going to tell me your symptoms. I'm going to tell you what you're supposed to do, even though the real healing is listening to your own body. And I think that I've been drafting it up. I'll probably post it soon. But like, I truly believe that the like Western healthcare at a macro scale, when you zoom out, it's basically just one big limiting belief. Like it's basically just goes against everything when it comes to spirituality and just like connection to yourself, of like the body is designed to heal itself. We just have to get the F out of its way. And when you go against your own biology, whether that be medications or vaccinations or whatever it might be, like the body is going to let you know. And that's why when you see a pharmaceutical commercial on TV, there's a bajillion different side effects. And I saw one last night, and it's like so funny because like, you know, it's this one for Crohn's or whatever, and this guy's like throwing the football and he like looks so happy and like everything's all good, and then it's like, well, you might die, your liver might fail, like you might have chronic bleeding, but this thing is going to save your life. It's like, is it going to save your life or is it going to make you worse? Because that's what I've realized, and that's what breaks my heart, is like the death by 1,000 cuts. And I said this in my post the other day, like my thoughts on RFK continued, and it's like, just because you don't have a gun or a knife doesn't mean you're not killing people. And I think that's the saddest thing to me, is that even when doctors think that they're doing good, like, you know, for example, I've had family members that have been on chronic heartburn meds for over 30 years, and you're not supposed to, I don't think you should ever be on them, but you're not really supposed to be on them for more than 2 weeks. And the fact that like, you know, this person will go to the medical system and they'll see the medical history and not even like, okay, well, if you have heartburn, then yeah, you should keep doing it. It's like, no, the reason that you're on the medication is because you're on the medication. And I don't think enough people realize that.
Yeah, I saw that so much in the ER. 60% of patients that came into the ER every day basically were abdominal pain. We would scan them, expose them to radiation, give them medications, and no answers. Go to GI so that they can keep scanning you, so that they can keep digging in. And that is what got so heavy for me, because I was like, it's a simple answer. But yes, this medical system is backwards. I saw one of your posts and I was like, yes, everything is the opposite of what they say. It's like, do they study what is so good for the human body and then just come up with their own studies that say the opposite so that they can sell this product that is healthcare?
Yeah, it's sad.
It blows my mind.
It's wild when you really, really zoom out and realize what's going on. When I first started coaching people, it was like teaching people how to read ingredients and like just being more aware of what you're putting in your body. And, a lot of my clients like will have this like virtual Zoom call where like they'll like send me a video of all the stuff that's in their fridge and their pantry. And I just like tell them like, hey, here's how you can do better and here's what to look out for. And it's like the most eye-opening thing of all time. And every time I ask my clients, like, what's the biggest thing you learned going through my program? And it's just like awareness. It's like all these things I just never even knew that were affecting me and my body. And it's a birthright to feel good. And people don't even realize how bad they felt until they start feeling good. And then when you do the research, and this is why I'm also passionate about the history, the Flexner Report, and just like, I'm sure you're aware that the cigarette companies bought the big food industry in like the mid 80s, and not like probably 0.3% of the world even knows that. And then when you see that, you're like, oh, okay, well, this ingredients list actually makes perfect sense. And when people are operating from their ego and just to make money or to build a bottom line or to like even live up to these two letters next to their name as a doctor or whatever it might be, it's like, yeah, they're just optimizing for efficiency and to like be right. And most people would rather be right than be free. And I think I have a lot of empathy for doctors or nurses like yourself that might actually like, now that they're seeing stuff or like they're seeing it in person or they're watching podcasts, like their soul probably knows. But if you've dedicated your entire life and you're spending $100,000 just to get to where you want to be, and like doctors are put on this pedestal as like the most prestigious people like on the planet, and you have kids and you got to like put food on the table, like I empathize with that and I understand that. I'm assuming maybe you watch the Callie Means and Tucker Carlson podcast, maybe not, but
I do.
Yeah, she talks about like, unfortunately, like if you know that this is like shitty and corrupt and you're just like putting your head down and you're just being a good person or like doing your thing and not asking questions, then unfortunately you are bankrolling on the problem. And it's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy, but I think that's a big lesson I've learned in my life, is that if you want to change and you want to listen to your soul in its fullest essence, like you have to, like there has to be some sort of death process, meaning that like your ego has to die or like your pride has to die. And you might have to say, hey, the way I've been doing things like maybe isn't working. And that's the biggest lesson I learned through like my burnout journey, was just being radically honest with like, okay, the way I'm living my life is clearly the feedback my body's giving me. It's like, it's not working. And, it's a Desmond Tutu quote of like, instead of just pulling people out of the river, we got to figure out why they're even falling in to begin with. And not a lot of people think like that in the Western space.
In the beginning, it was so hard because everyone sees nurse on your profile and then they're like, that's not what nurses think. And realized they are just throwing you around like a bouncy ball. The body can't handle all this stuff. It's like, and then surgery. It's either meds, surgery, or something that will completely change your body. And instead of realizing that the body just wants to work right, and when you feed it real food, it works right. And it's sad that in our country we have to talk like that, because I went to Italy and I'm like, everything that I see is real here. I don't have to pick it up and look, is there a poison in here that's going to hurt me? I can just eat it and feel good and feel my brain kicking in. And
yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's the amount of clients I've had that have like gone to Italy and they like binge eat, pasta and bread, and they're like, "Oh, I felt great. Like didn't feel bloated, felt awesome." And then like come back to America and it's like the first bite of bread you have in the US, it's like your stomach hurts and it's like, yeah, it's so real and it's unfortunate. And yeah, I don't really know how like the Nobel Peace Prize works or how the voting works, but I honestly believe like once this starts to sink in more, and if RFK keeps the momentum that he's got going right now, I mean, Jesus, like he's what he's done in the past 13 months versus what, you know, the NIH and CDC and WHO has done over the past like 100 years is absolutely mind-boggling. And again, when you realize that it's a death by a thousand cuts, and just because you don't have a gun or knife doesn't mean you're not killing people, and people really swallow their pride and they take a seat and they look in the mirror and they realize what's really freaking happening. Like, I believe that RFK deserves to win a Nobel Peace Prize, and I think he will go down as one of the most important people in American history. I truly believe that. I've really fostered the skill of not giving a crap, not because I think I'm cooler or better than other people or whatever it might be, but like because it's just a waste of energy. And truthfully, if people are committed to misunderstanding you before you even open your mouth, like what's the point? And I think a lot of that does stem from ego, and a lot of it stems from victim mentality. And I'm not saying that there's a lot of crappy stuff going on. I don't agree with every single thing that our current president does at all, really, in a lot of ways. But, I think that's the most courageous and beautiful thing that I saw from RFK. It was like, wow, he clearly realized that he had zero shot of winning the election as his own president. I was pumped, like I was ready to vote for him. And he was like, damn, okay, like I have to do what's best for the people. And, I'm sure he doesn't agree with a lot of what Trump does either.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of like climate stuff and oil stuff that goes against the environment, goes against nature, which I know RFK is all about. And he stands for that stuff because he knows everything's interconnected. And I think they even joked about that. Like Trump was like, oh yeah, he can do whatever he wants with the food stuff, but like we're gonna drill, or like you can't talk to me about global warming. So obviously there's always pros and cons, but like you said, like I think the problem is like people again just don't realize how serious it really is. And because of what the past political systems and parties have been doing, like they downplay it or they just don't share the information. And I think that's what's been so freeing. And like I think even people that have just been trained into the Western system as a patient or as a worker, it's like there's so much truth being revealed right now that I almost like it's almost like people's nervous systems like can't handle it. And it's like it's so shocking that it's like that can't be true. That must be a conspiracy theory. Or it's like, oh, RFK is not a doctor. I'm like, well, if you've gone through the journey that I have and most people have that are in the wellness space, that's actually perfect.
Our
Like,
bodies
I
are the
actually,
doctors. Like I
yeah,
call
like
my
I
body the
prefer he's not
doctor
a
now.
doctor. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, he's like a heroin addict. It's like, dude, I have a really good friend from college that was addicted to heroin for like 5 years, and then he went through this like massive spiritual journey, and now he has his own company that essentially helps people overcome addiction, and he's been sober for like 6 years now. And like he's very spiritually connected, like he's such a good human. And like people are so judgmental, and whether it's heroin or alcohol or food, right, which the system has addicted us to, it's like people have generational trauma and they have things they don't know how to deal with, or they're stressed, so they just like it starts to implode within them. And it's like it's no different from a drug or yeah, shopping or staying busy or eating food. And yeah, it's like a lot of people blame their own willpower, especially when it comes to addiction around food. It's like, oh, what's wrong with me? Like, why can't I just, eat less calories? Or, why can I like not just have one scoop of the ice cream? I had the whole carton or the whole chocolate bar. And it's like, dude, when you realize that the food industry was bought by the cigarette industry, like you can't blame yourself. And that's what I always say to people. Like, it's not your fault. It's not your fault, but unfortunately, like it is your responsibility. And it's crazy when I think about being 5 years into my journey, at least like having the business and coaching, really like 7 years of healing. I'm like, how do people live without this toolbox? And I don't mean that in like an egotistical way. It's like, just like if you don't have the awareness, like the default is literally to fail. Like you
Yeah.
literally will fail, and you'll just chalk it up as genetics. And when you get to the age of 40, your bones start, degrading, and you're just like, oh, this is part of it. And so I realized the answer to that question of like, how do you not live with like this information? It's like not very well. And most of the world is walking around living not very well, and then they just chalk it up as normal. And that's, I say it probably in every podcast, and I've already said it twice now, but like you really just don't know how bad you felt until you start feeling good. And I think the analogy I like to say too is like a fish doesn't know it's swimming in water. And it's like what you said before, is like all these nurses are running around doing their job, being good people, but they don't like see the big picture of what's actually happening. And, you know, just ironic to me that like healthcare folks are some of the sickest people out there. And it always breaks my heart too. Like I have so much respect and I appreciate like overnight workers and people that work in the ER. I don't know if you ever did overnight work, but it just kind of to me is like, yeah, it's just like sad because it's just another example of like how disconnected we are from nature and how our biology works and how our circadian rhythms work. And as I'm sure you might know through some research, it's like overnight work is literally deemed as like a type 2A carcinogen to the body. And
it is.
we wouldn't need really, I mean, obviously there's always going to be emergencies, and we can be very grateful for healthcare in that sense of like a surgery or whatever it might be, or if you like absolutely need antibiotics or something. But for the most part, it's like we wouldn't really need all this like overnight shift or like chronic, you know, people in the hospital all the time working literally 24/7 if we weren't so sick 24/7. And so it's just, yeah, it fires me up. And so I appreciate this space. And I don't know where you want to go with the next question, but I, you know, obviously if I'm going to share this with my audience, I think like understanding the why is like really important. And, you know, even for example, a company reached out to me, sent me this like energy balls, and the ingredients were like really good. And I was like really impressed. And I'm always like, something must have happened to this person, because like you don't just like know like the importance of ingredients, or like if I go to a juice shop and like I can tell they put so much care into like where they source their ingredients, I'm like, what happened to this person? And to me it's
true.
like,
or they came from a different country where they're like,
yeah, exactly,
I don't want that in my food or in my product.
Yeah, so I'm always like, what? And so even with the RFK example, it's like, well, like I think it's actually amazing that he was like addicted to heroin at one point, because he obviously like met the depths of himself and like understood what the human body is really all about and like how to heal from a very, 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 very dark place. So I'm curious if I can ask you a question. I think I saw some posts of yours online, but yeah, I'd love to have you share like what got you to where you are too, because it takes a lot of courage, and I have a lot of respect for what you're doing.
I started having seizures randomly on a night shift. I was travel nursing, and I was in triage, where we sit in like a booth and just ask people questions, you know, why are you here? What's your pain? What are your vitals? But I was sitting there and I started getting this crazy tunnel vision, and I couldn't hear a patient. I couldn't focus. It was kind of like disassociation. But then I was like, I can't think. So I texted my partner and I was like, hey, something's wrong. So he came out to triage and they sat me down, and then I just went into full-blown seizures all night, and they had to intubate me and fly me because they had epilepsy doctors or someone that could do more testing while I was intubated. And so they did a spinal tap. They checked me for meningitis, and they gave me all these antibiotics to treat me for meningitis. They gave me all these seizure medications. I woke up after like 6 days or like maybe 5 days of being intubated, and they said, we didn't find anything, but here are some seizure medications we're going to put you on. And they put me on some anxiety medication because the seizure medications cause anxiety. That part was insane to me. I'm like, okay, you know, seizures, your nervous system's already dysregulated. So, you know, let's just cause some more dysregulation. And I only thought about this after I was off all the meds. In the time, I'm like, yeah, I don't want to die. Give me everything. You know, I didn't have any answers. So they sent me to epileptologists where they did EEGs, you know, and each time was something different. They would catch epileptic waves. So you can have seizures and they could be non-epileptic, but so a couple of them would catch that. And then, you know, I was in the hospital every 2 weeks, every week if not, and they were just dousing me with these medications. Eventually, we found a medication that worked, and I went back to work, and I was travel nursing again. And at this hospital, a patient was upset because they were waiting so long and they were in pain, and I was the nurse in front of them, like the lobby's right there. Everyone's watching this argument.
Mm.
And they rip off their blood pressure cuff and swat me in the face and exit the building. And I had a full-blown seizure after that. I don't know if sparked my nervous system, something triggered a seizure. And the hospital fired me the next day. They didn't offer me workman's comp. They didn't even ask if I was okay. They just done. I went down that hole of what are hospitals, why are they able to do this? Why are they able to just turn and burn these nurses until they're so sick that they can't even work, and then blame them for not being able to work? And then patients getting upset because care is failing because we're chronically overwhelmed. Our systems are just completely overwhelmed. And then I just did my own research. I found the ketogenic diet. For 2 years, not one doctor told me the ketogenic diet assists with healing seizures and maintaining or treating seizures. And yeah, so that's what took me down my rabbit hole.
Wow. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I just got the chills when you said at the end there, like for 2 years, no doctors mentioned that. It's like that literally was your savior, and nobody, again, I think a lot of doctors, maybe I'm being too nice, but I think a lot of doctors they do mean well, but they just don't know. That's why they never mentioned it. They just don't know. Yet that's been like a thing for over 100 years. Like Johns Hopkins was, I think, the first hospital to like start implementing and integrating that. They've treated thousands of patients. And as a matter of fact, I was in Hawaii one time, and I was with a group of friends, and then they did this trip, and I just wanted to have my own solo day. And I went and like got dinner at this place and happened to sit down next to this guy. And I forget the full story, but he was like, yeah, my daughter like was basically born epileptic, and she had like 3 seizures a day, and like until she was the age of like 17, like we never got any answers. And then somehow we came across the Johns Hopkins ketogenic diet, and he was like, yeah, she went on it for like 18 months, and for 18 months straight, after having 3 seizures every single day for her whole life, didn't have a single seizure. And now obviously like she had a pretty intense situation, and she was born with the seizures. So like when she went off of it, she started getting seizures again, but it's just because it wasn't like super sustainable to just do high fat all the time. So she ended up getting like brain surgery and stuff. But like, does that not just go to show you how freaking powerful that food is literally medicine? And I'm sure you know this, but now like Alzheimer's is being deemed as type 3 diabetes because of how much it's interconnected with our brain, and insulin and like metabolic health is basically the core root cause of every single issue out there. And then you have like heart disease being literally chalked up as genetics. And I've had family members tell me like, oh, like I have a 50% chance because like my father had heart disease, and I have to be on these statins because that's what the doctor told me. And it's like, that's where I have an issue with like, okay, I'm going to have to tell you the truth even if it hurts, because that's my duty. Knowing what I've gone through, knowing the 85 clients I've worked with, hearing stories like you, hearing stories from the guy I sat down next to at dinner, it's like, this stuff happens, and just because it's not covered in the media doesn't mean it's not real. And again, I just have so much appreciation, gratitude, and I just really respect what you're doing, because that takes a lot of courage to speak up in front of a system that you were embedded in for over, whatever you said, 8 to 10 years. And just because you're one person talking about this doesn't mean that you're crazy. It doesn't mean that it's not happening. It just means that you were the one that had the courage to speak up and say something. And that's, again, why I have so much respect for what you're doing. And I'm sure you've gotten a lot of pushback from family and your other coworkers and a lot of people, and that's really hard to do. And it's another reason why I really respect RFK, because it's like, dude, if you watched any of the clips from, I don't know what the secretary hearing or whatever they call it in government, but like when he was just getting berated by all these like people about vaccinations and how you're going to like make the world a sick place and you're so dangerous. And it's like, dude, he's a warrior. Like he's literally getting like bow and arrows shot at his face. And he's just like, no, like I know, I've seen what I've seen. And if you know his story about why he even started this journey, is because, I mean, I don't know it fully, but I think basically it's because he just realized as he was like traveling the world doing whatever he was doing, it's like our kids and our children are so sick, 7-year-olds, 12-year-olds that are like freaking 150 pounds and are diabetic And it's like, dude, this isn't normal. And so when you know the why behind someone, and you can see that they're a grounded person and they have a deep soul that's connected to some higher power, like, to me, I just always have a lot of respect for that. So I'm sure, I don't know, like, your spiritual connection, but I have to assume that you have some sort of connection to a higher power, and that probably gave you a lot of courage to do what you've been doing. And that's what I think we need. I think we need a lot of doctors to swallow their pride, to let their ego, quite frankly, collapse and shatter, because that's really going to be the only way out. And like, RFK is doing all this amazing work, and it's great. The first time we've ever really even freaking talked about food as medicine, or that it could play a part in like this absurdity when it comes to chronic illness. But it's like, it's going to be boots on the ground. Like, every time you go to the grocery store, you are voting. Like, I mean, if you think about it hypothetically, I use this example all the time. It sounds ridiculous, but like, if we just never bought the cereal again, or if we never bought the Cheetos again, or if we didn't buy the Cheez-Its, those companies would literally go out of business. It could be that simple. But because, like, you and I, this mindset we have is probably 0.03% of the US population, is like, it's going to take education and awareness. I think that's why you and I are so passionate about sharing it all the time. And sometimes, even to me, like, I like to see myself as a warrior, and just like, being willing to die on the hill for the cause I'm going for, because people deserve good health. It's a birthright. And sometimes you're so normalized into and so hypnotized into being sick, that you just don't even realize it. And sometimes it goes against, it's to my own detriment. Like, I actually, even the other day, I posted that I'm taking a little break from social media, because I get all these like downloads from God and the universe being like, this is really important, you need to share this. And then I'll sit there in the morning and spend 3 hours on a post, which impacts a lot of people. But it's like, being on social media, as you know, like, it can be tough on your hormones and your brain. And so I'm just like, all right, I just need to take a break. But I think the reason I'm on it so much is for a good cause. A lot of people are on it to consume. I'm on there to try to create. But my point is, like, it's like, I just have so much I want to say. It's like, there's not even enough space on social media to like say it all. So that's
Yeah,
why I like doing podcasts. It's a good way to impact people, at a
absolutely.
grander scale. So I appreciate the space.
Of course. And I agree that people normalize everything. And I think that's one of the problems with nurses and doctors and everyone from realizing anything, is because they're like, what are you talking about? Because everything's normalized. Chronic illness, seeing a person with their toes falling off, we know what to do. That's normal, having a person coming in, breathing really hard because their blood sugar is so high and you can smell fumes coming out of them. Like, normal. We didn't know what to do. We're going to put you on an insulin drip and put you in the ICU and just control your blood sugar that way, but still feed you bananas, orange juice, oatmeal for breakfast. Like, it just, now I can see it, but unfortunately it was normalized for me. It was normalized in school, it was normalized in training, it was normalized on the job, So you could feel that something was wrong because it was so frustrating.
Yeah. Even like when my buddy went through his non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, he like sent me a picture from the hospital when he was like first going through it. And I'm sure you know it because you worked in the hospitals, but those like Boost nutrition shakes, like they gave him like a big jug of it, and he like sent like, first off, it's like 54 grams of like added sugar. And then the
Sugar.
ingredients is like canola oil, high fructose corn syrup, like natural flavors, food dyes. I'm like, this can't be real. Like, it just feels like a simulation. It's like, this, how is this even real? And I think I said this the other day online. I was like, when people are so disconnected from what's really going on, and companies are in business to make money, like, I don't think a lot of business people are like bad people. Like, even the ones that, when you see a processed food that's packaged or in a box, it's like, oh, it's only 100 calories, or like it's gluten free, or it's organic. Like, I think there's a lot of like business people who aren't nutritionists. They don't know anything about food, and it's like, oh, I actually, like, as this business owner, I actually think we're making like a healthier product, so this is great. As you know, there's a lot of greenwashing, but then it's like, if people are operating from their ego, and they're optimizing bottom line, or they're optimizing efficiency, like, it actually makes a lot of sense when you think about it. That's why all of our clothing is made from plastic. That's why like, everything is freaking wrapped in plastic. That is why food has canola oil instead of, avocado oil and tallow, because it's cheaper. And so when you think about it, in life, we're always optimizing for something. Like myself, because I've woken up so much around the health space, I optimize for my health a lot. Like the things I spend the most money on is going to healthy grocery stores, going to the gym memberships, mentors to like work on my mind. Um, and some people are optimizing for money. And so if you're optimizing for money, then yes, you are going to cut corners. Then yes, you are going to use seed oils. And yes, you are going to use plastic. So it's unfortunate, but it makes a lot of sense. It doesn't solve the problem. But when people tell me like, oh, I'm so overwhelmed, I don't know what to believe. I feel like, you know, someone said like olive oil is not healthy anymore, or avocado oil is not healthy. Well, it's because it's super industrialized and they cut it with seed oils. And so like you have to do your research and it shouldn't be that way. But in America, it's hard to be, and it's really freaking hard to be unhealthy. And you can really use that analogy for any aspect of life. It's hard to be broke. It's hard to be rich. Like you got to put in the work. And so yeah, it's like I think I understand, I empathize why people get really frustrated or overwhelmed, because there are a lot of people being like, "Oh, you shouldn't do this or you shouldn't have that," or like, you know, this has heavy metals in it now, and it's like I get it, I really do, but this is the reality of industrialization, and if you know better, then why wouldn't you do better? And you don't want to live in a bubble. The body's super resilient, but especially if you are feeling sick, and the fact that whatever 1 in 2 people will get a chronic illness or already have a chronic illness, you know, 50% of Americans will get cancer at some point in their life. It's like, well, is what we're doing now working? Because if not, then you might as well try to educate yourself and try to change. Because if you're in pain, usually you're willing to do whatever it takes. And it is going to take some work, but if you care, you'll do it.
Yeah, exactly. And every symptom your body gives you, there's just a reason. You just have to ask why. You're having
Mm.
back pain? Why? Are you 40 pounds overweight and it's all on your belly? Are you on your feet all day? Are you eating a lot of sugar? Do you have a lot of inflammation in your body? There's a why for everything, but we're not taught that. A lot of things I've been getting lately is don't trust this nurse. She thinks she's a nutritionist. And it's like, what? Just because nurses don't learn nutrition, I can't educate
Mm.
myself as a nurse on how to heal the body. And that's another thing about labels to me. Labeling a person, that's what I've been getting a lot lately. So they see a nurse in a certain way, and I can't practice outside I have to stay in my lane. Otherwise, I
Yeah,
get,
no, it's, I mean, again, I have so much respect for what you do. And I'm actually curious. I mean, that's just the truth. Like when you speak about controversial things, like it gets attention. And obviously you've been doing that and you've had the courage to do that. And I don't remember how many followers you have, but you have a big following, which is awesome. And I think more people need to hear your message. But like even for me, whatever, I have like 12,000 followers. It's like if I like run a sponsored ad about something or even just like an organic post, and these people like comment on stuff. There's one I posted. It's like you got to stop eating like a child, and it got like 300,000 views on TikTok. I don't really use TikTok that much, and it got like whatever 30 likes organically on Instagram. And I was like, why did that happen? So I decided to run it as a sponsored ad, and now of course it's got like thousands of likes. But some people are like, oh, like you telling me like not to eat orange, not to drink orange juice, like or just like I don't know, all these like stupid comments where I don't know when you become more emotionally intelligent, like yeah, maybe there's some stuff that like kind of zings you or triggers you, and I'm sure for you it's really hard, and I'm sure you've been working on that, but like for me, I kind of just laugh it off now. I'm like what foot do you have to stand on to be this like random person? I don't even know if it's a real human on Instagram, user number 15867. And it's
yeah.
like, don't trust me. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you can like do whatever you want, man. And I think this is, I don't know if you read Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, but this is like this mentality I've been having recently. Like, with all due respect, like everybody can go screw themselves, because when you see what I have seen and I know what you've seen, and you go through 10 years of chronic acne without getting any answers, and you go through 16 months of depression, and all the doctors say is you should just get on this depression medication or take these Tums for your heartburn, even though I was so stressed out and that's why my gut health was struggling. And you have family members that have had 3 cancers in the one lifetime that they're living, or 3 autoimmune diseases, or a roommate that went through chemotherapy as a 26-year-old. You have 85 clients that come to you because they don't get any answers. It's like, honestly, like if you don't believe in what I'm doing, I don't care. Like I know what I've seen, I know what I know, and I'm doing what I'm doing because it's a download from God. And when God tells you what to do, you don't fucking hesitate.
Yeah, yeah. And I was never that spiritual ever or religious my whole life. And when I hit bottom, my bottom was I was flown multiple times from hospital to hospital, and one of the helicopter flights, my insurance refused to pay. Mind you, I was dead basically with a tube down my throat, so I had no control over this, but it was upwards of $170,000. That's when I was like, I need to find hope. And then it was more than hope. And then it was, okay, as I'm finding out this information, this is a problem. And like you said, if I don't start connecting with, initially I was like, okay, I just want to see if this means anything. And then I got response of this is happening everywhere.
Wow.
And it connected me to that purpose.
That's amazing. Yeah. How'd you get so like, did you kind of like blow up with some of those videos that you were posting, or like, how'd you get such a big following? It's really impressive.
I think I have a few that constantly circle the algorithm, and one of them is just asking, like, how many nurses have to end up here? And it's just the video of me, like, how many nurses are we going to allow to become chronically ill and blame them? How many? Because obviously it's millions, or there's 5 million licensed nurses in America, only 3 practice, and they're saying there's a nursing shortage. There's no nurse. They're just, it's almost like they're killing off these nurses in a way, either suicide because they're so mentally drained and exhausted, or chronic illness, or either injured. We're lifting 500, 400-pound people. Mind you, most nurses are females. There are male nurses, but you know, you have lift teams at hospitals that have the money to support that. But it's like we're hurting ourselves, and nurses fight against me because I'm fighting for something different than what they're used to. But I know the truth of what's happening to nurses. So I hope that they can see that, even if they've never experienced the other side of it, or that they can't picture it yet, or they can't grasp it yet. But there is some evil going on in our system.
It's a dark energy is what I've realized. And you know, sometimes I get caught up in like being an entrepreneur and just getting my head down in like the administrative work, and it sucks and it's tough. But there are always like little God winks or things that come to me that are like, wow, like I forgot how important this is. Or like someone like a friend or like a past client will like send me a podcast, and it kind of just, even sometimes I'll even go back and like listen to that Casey Means and Tucker Carlson. I'm like, I know all the stats, I know it's messed up, but like getting those reminders is like really important, because when you live such an ingrained lifestyle when it comes to your health, and like you don't even think twice about it, like all the habits that I have and the way I carry myself, and the way I see food and healthcare, it's like I just kind of take it for granted. But you just have to remember that there's still so many people, to no fault of their own, just like myself. Like at one point I didn't know that food was causing like this conventional dairy and gluten and too much sugar and just like toxic lifestyle was causing all my acne and skin issues. And there's still people like that, and everyone's at their own stage and phase of like healing. And I have to remember that, just because even though RFK is like on TV sometimes, and you know my news feed is an echo chamber of health stuff, like doesn't mean that people know things, especially when their lives are so busy and you just become so overstimulated. And even if you are seeing the information, or someone comes across your post, or they come across my post, like if they're so numbed out, or they're so cranking on cortisol and just like surviving, and they kind of know, maybe like their soul like gets a little like almost like get triggered. But because if you're surviving so much and you're just trying to like get through the day, or especially as a nurse, so it's really intense, it's like, nah, like like I just got to keep going, like it doesn't really matter. Or it's like, even if they read the information, it like straight up just doesn't even register in the brain. And that's why I've become really passionate about like nervous system healing and calming the nervous system down, because if you're focused on surviving, there's no way you can really truly absorb information. And I've actually realized that in the big picture, like when I was in high school, and especially as like a kid, like I'm sure a lot of us dealt with like feeling insecure. And you know, I was always kind of like bad at math growing up, and like I always felt like I didn't like retain information as well. And, you know, there are certain parts, some people are maybe born that way, but for the most part, I think it's just because like we've indoctrinated ourselves into a system where now like ADHD is like such a thing. It's like, no, dude, you're putting these little kids into a box where like you're teaching them math that they will not use for the rest of their life. And then you make them feel like crap. You make them feel stupid. And then they can't focus because they have a tablet when they're 3 years old. And it's like, it's just out of control. And, you know, I guess life would be kind of boring if there was no issues to solve, but it's just really sad, like when you think about how much our world has changed in the past like 200 years. And even earlier before this podcast, I had this like random download at the gym, which I've like thought about many times. But I was like, damn, like, can you imagine like a caveman like holding a box of like Ritz crackers or like looking at the ingredients or like all these like stupid things that are just industrialized in the modern day world? It's like, it didn't even exist like 150, 200 years ago, and they're so normalized and caked into everyday society. Or like gluten-free, dairy-free, glyphosate-free, you know, sugar-free. It's like, dude, like the fact that like the healthiest products have all these claims on them, it's awesome, but it's like, okay, well, what does that make everything else? Like the fact that like the healthiest products are the things that are just free of toxins is like, okay, so what does that mean about everything else? Like, it's just insane. And then even the other day I found out that grocery stores and supermarkets are literally, I don't know the exact correlation, but basically they were created in the same way that like casinos are sorted and created to like keep you confused, keep you overwhelmed, like no real direction. And even to this day, with all I know about nutrition and health, like, you know, I have my staples that I go for. I kind of just ignore everything else. But even to this day, I'm like, I see how that actually makes sense. Like, it's insane. And literally
Costco is where I
yeah,
see it most. I'm like, they don't put signs up because they know people will wander and walk in the every aisle. Yeah, it's crazy. One thing I noticed about what has happened in the past 60 years is like we're just malnourished. And I see it everywhere, and it's so apparent to me now. So even online on social media, I'll see these influencers that are, you know, fit looking, but they show their what I eat in a day, and I'm like, you're malnourished. Like, it's malnourishment and it's poison that you're putting in your body. And I won't ever comment that, but it's like I just notice it every time, and it's so disheartening because that's where we need it most. You know, influencers that are showing real food, not premier protein shakes and almond milk that has all these emulsifiers and weird things in it, you know.
You know Dr. Lustig?
I don't know, maybe.
I think he's actually based out of UCLA.
Okay.
His whole thing is, his mission is to kill the calorie. And I love that because that
what
was
does
also
that
something
mean?
that was invented. It means
Kill the calorie.
It just means like, especially in the fitness space, like you see it all the time. It's like, okay, well, as long as I'm in a calorie deficit, then I'm good. I'll lose weight. And if that's your goal, cool. But first off, that's not necessarily true, because when your body's stressed out and your cortisol is high and you already have all this stress in your life and then you eat less food, you're sending a signal to your body that I'm surviving and I need to survive. So I'm going to crank this adrenaline and cortisol, which is literally a fat storing hormone. So I've literally had clients that are like, oh yeah, like I'm so busy, I have 2 kids, I'm working all day, and then I don't end up eating until like 7 p.m. And it's like, well, when you eat that late, first off, like you don't give your body enough time to digest food. And when you're sleeping, your body's like half digesting, half sleeping. Your sleep's not good. But also, like, you need to eat more. Like, your body's malnourished. And I was like, I literally said, like, start eating more food. Like, have at least 2 meals a day and get some good protein, get some good fiber. And literally within, like, I think a week and a half, she lost 6 pounds by eating more food. And so it's like, just because this Oreo has 100 calories and this apple has 100 calories, like, it's not even comparable. Like, this is literally a chemical bomb that doesn't even, it's like, it's mind boggling. And then you have an apple that has fiber in it and it's got like healthy sugars. And so not all calories are created equal. And I think that there's a lot of obviously marketing. It's like half the processed food you look at in the grocery store is, oh, only 100 calories. And I think that is also a big part of the hypnosis, is that it's just calories in, calories out. And that's pretty toxic if you ask me. I mean, generally speaking, yeah, obviously, like, you want to be exerting more energy than you're intaking. But even like if you do research on how the calorie was even created to begin with, like, I might botch it, but basically it's like the amount of energy that it takes for like 1 calorie of energy to to heat up in like a plastic bag or something. And it's like, that's not how humans like digest food. And not to mention, just because two different foods have the same amount of calories, like what is that doing to your hormones? What is that doing to your serotonin, your happiness hormones in your gut? Like, how is that affecting your energy? How is that impacting your brain? And so you said it perfectly. It's just like the same person could eat 2,000 calories exactly the same every day, but one person's eating like all this processed food and the other person's eating like real food. And usually you can eat more food when you have like real calories, and it satiates you. And that's why now, you know, Ozempic and all these GLP-1 drugs are literally on pace to be the most profitable drug that's ever existed in human life and human history. And
What's your view on Ozempic and GLP-1s?
It's funny to me, and I mean this with all due respect, but it's actually like I haven't posted it yet. I took a video probably 40, 60 days ago, but it almost like it like blows my mind when people even ask me that question, because if you watch my Instagram and you know what I'm about, it's like it's just another thing. It's another thing that the healthcare system has created, and they're literally prescribing it as the first line of defense against diabetes to, like, I want to say 12-year-olds, maybe even 6-year-olds. I heard Callie Means talk about that on a podcast. And it's like, oh, this is like a life-saving drug. It's just like the misunderstanding, the mass psychosis, the mass hypnosis that people literally believe in their like fiber of every being, because they're so disconnected from their soul. They actually believe that this is a revolutionary drug that's going to change healthcare.
Did you see Oprah's little clip where she says how she's on GLP-1s and that she was diagnosed with obesity and that it was like inherited and she has to take that, or one, you're still overweight. Two, maybe you're not eating real food, you know, but for her to say her influence is insane to me.
Yeah.
Either that or she's so, I don't know.
I mean, she has a lot of money, so maybe she didn't. I don't know.
She's always been on like some sort of weight loss.
Yeah. But also, like, if she actually believes it's a solution, even if she wasn't paid, then that's like she's being a good person, because she's just telling the truth. She's telling the truth of what she actually believes, and that's where I think the paradigm shift needs to happen, because that genetics conversation it might be the underlying issue for almost like everything in the healthcare system and just like all the chronic illness, because people genuinely believe that genetics plays a big role.
Well,
this is stuff I have to check myself
ground into school. So nurses learn it, doctors learn it. You ask the family history. That's one of the things you have to ask, because that's how we figure out disease. So I get it.
Yeah. And it's like the same thing with the COVID vaccine. It's like, we just like expedited it so fast, and we didn't even do like any research on it, or like even if we did do research on it, there isn't enough time that's elapsed to really see like how much it can affect people. And I listened to another Callie Means podcast, and he was talking about all the side effects, and I don't recall all of them, but again, it doesn't even matter. Like, the body's always going to tell you, it's going to give you feedback. And I think Mark Hyman posted about it was like 50% of the weight loss is from like muscle loss, which is like literally the longevity currency of your body, and you need your muscles for so many things. So it's like, just because you hop on the scale and you lose 10 pounds or 20 pounds and 5 to 10 pounds of that is your muscle, like, doesn't mean that that's like good. And that goes back to your point of like being malnourished. Just because like the number on the scale goes down doesn't mean that you're not malnourished. And I mean, I know, including myself, I grew up as an athlete. I Subway, pizza, calzones, Skittles, Gatorade.
I ran track, and I would eat breadsticks before races.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm not gaining weight. It doesn't matter. Just burn it off. And I know so many people like that. It's like, just because you're skinny, you're not overweight, doesn't mean you're wildly malnourished. And the fact that this has been like this new revolution, that this is going to like heal everything, it's just another thing. And it just goes to show you how much processed food and how much like stress in the modern day world suppresses your ghrelin, which is your hunger hormone, or increases your ghrelin, and then suppresses your leptin, which is your satiety hormone. And so it's like, people eat so fast because they're so stressed out. They eat so much processed food. It's like, you can't just have one chip in a chip bag. Lay's has literally even said that in their marketing. It's like, you can't just have one chip. You eat the whole thing. It's because your
Yeah.
body thinks it's getting food because it gets the flavor on the back in the back of your taste buds. It's like, oh, food is coming. Okay, release the digestive enzymes. Okay, now I'm eating this thing, but I'm like not actually getting any nourishment, so I need more, I need more, I need more, and then it just never stops. And that's why you eat the whole carton of ice cream. That's why you have the whole chocolate bar. That's why you have the whole bag of chips, and then you blame yourself. But then you do some research, and you're like, oh wow, okay, the cigarette companies basically created this food to do exactly what it's doing, and now the solution to the issue that was created from ourselves as a society is now just going to keep the cycle going. And I don't know all the side effects, but to me, in general, like obviously every medication has a side effect, but between like losing all the healthy muscle mass in your body and like basically just shutting down your own body's innate ability to understand how much
You
food it
should
needs and how
never
much it
have
doesn't.
gastroparesis. Your stomach should
Right,
never be paralyzed, and that's what they're finding. And the
right.
argument is, well, that will reverse when you stop. It's regardless, your stomach should never be paralyzed.
It's insane.
Never. Yeah.
It's insane. And I think when you have this foundational truth that we are not separate from nature, that's why like I almost kind of laugh when people ask me, well, what do you think about this? It's like it's just another thing, and it's going to have side effects. And if you go against human biology and the way it's innately designed to live in harmony with nature, then it makes a ton of sense that there's going to be side effects and there's going to be repercussions. So it's like no matter what innovation we create or how we're going to, quote, cure cancer, I'm sure there are certain technologies that can maybe sort of do that, but the real cure is prevention. And also, even if you do, there's plenty of people that have gone through, cancer that have eradicated it through food and lifestyle. And I'm not here to like, give medical advice, but it's again goes back to the Flexner Report. It's like, oh, well, you would never be able to do that. Like, and there's even a part of me that's like, well, I mean, in a way, maybe we can be thankful for like chemo and radiation. Obviously, it just totally fries the body, basically kills you without killing you. But it's like, yeah, if you compound interest your body for 30, 40, 50 years, and there's that much damage and the rate of damage outpaces the rate of recovery, you might need some sort of intense intervention. And that's exactly literally the life cycle of what the healthcare does to people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
it's
these
gnarly.
rare conditions that never existed 100 years ago, rare cancers, all these people think they have rare conditions when it's
Yeah.
not rare. It's to me, it's a system built on fear and however
Mm-hmm.
they can word it. And it's not, I'm not talking about the doctors. I'm not talking about the nurse.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about the system. However they
Right.
can word it to make you fear your body, they will
Mm-hmm.
say it. And,
Mm-hmm.
my family still fears their body. I'm helping my dad, trying to,
Mm-hmm.
direct him not taking statins. Do not take a statin. We will correct your diet.
Mm-hmm.
I did carnivore. That's what just completely switched off my seizures. I did keto at first, and then I
Mm-hmm.
switched to more of like a carnivore. I still eat fruits and stuff, and
Yeah.
it cured me.
Yeah, the proof is in the pudding. And that's another thing. There's even just saying like cured. It's like I think the FDA created something in like the early 1930s or something. That was basically like if you say like a food can cure you or heal you, then it has to be deemed as like a drug, and that has to go through like the FDA process. So it's like if you say like garlic is healthy for your immune system, or like this ginger like really helps my digestion. It's like technically like I don't know the exact rules or whatever, but it's like, oh, you can't like say that. And it's like it's so insane. And like I experienced this, like I got to help you with this. This is awesome, and it's all great. But then like when I realized that this is never going to stop until we get to the root, which again goes back to like cutting the head off of the snake, which is unfortunately usually at that political foundation. And like we got to do what we got to do, and that's why like I have a lot of respect for again RFK and all the people that are in the Maha movement. And it's just unfortunate that people like lash back. And there's even some influencers, you probably maybe have seen her. There's just one woman that literally her whole Instagram profile is basically just saying every single thing that RFK says is incorrect, and she'll nitpick every single thing he says and basically miss the point. And then also you realize how wounded she is, from like an emotional intelligence standpoint, and you're like, okay, like I want to try to listen. Like I'm a pretty unbiased person. I've never been like political, but it's like when you realize either she's getting paid or she's so wounded or like will not let her ego shatter a little bit. Like she's just no matter what he says or no matter what people says, like there will always be backlash. And so I just hope that the world and the universe can swallow its pride a little bit. I'm not saying I know everything and every single thing I say is correct. I'm just saying I've seen what I've seen. I know what I know. I listen to God. I listen to my soul. I've helped heal myself. I've healed other people. And I think we just need a world where people are just more willing and open, because I get it. It's scary to let your ego die, and it's to swallow your pride. And the problem is most people would rather be right than be free. And that causes a lot of issues. So yeah, again, I just have so much respect for what you're doing. It takes a lot of courage, and more people need to hear your story. So I'm excited to share this with my audience too.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to share. Where can my audience find you? At Superfood Superhuman.
Yeah, everywhere on the interwebs. Instagram is my main platform, so at Superfood Superhuman. I'm a little bit on TikTok, but yeah, I'd say Instagram's the main
Okay.
funnel. Yeah.
Awesome. I appreciate the work you're doing so much. I
Yeah,
wish
mutual.
I found your account when I was struggling, and I connect with you so well. Everything you've been through is a form of what, and I think a lot of us are going through this. And like you said, we're at different stages, and just speaking truth is going to help a lot of people more than we know, especially right now.
Yeah, and I'm at this point now where like I respect everyone's opinions, and I never want to like hurt people's feelings. But deep in my heart and my soul, and if people listening to this have been following my page for a while, or even maybe just recently, like the way I say things and where I'm coming from a very grounded, intentional, soulful place, like even if it does hurt your feelings, like just know that it's all love, and I'm doing it because I really truly feel that my highest service on this planet is to tell the truth even if it hurts. And it's like if you have a friend that's in a toxic relationship and they say like, what do you think of my partner? And you know in your soul that it's literally like killing that person and it's making them worse and it's bringing out the worst in them. And you say, oh yeah, that's fine. Like as long as like, you can figure it out, it's all good. But inside you're like, this is killing you. Like you need to stop. And like the real friends, the real people tell the truth. So that's what I want people to know, is that even if it hurts, or if you have different opinions, that's okay. We can disagree. That's fine. There's a reason we're fired up when we talk about it. So yeah, just keep doing what you're doing.
I appreciate you coming on here. If you guys enjoyed this episode, share this with a friend, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys next time.